Okay, here we are. My first ever YouTube live. Is anyone there? If you're there, please say hello in the chat. If you're not, that's okay. I'm just going to talk to the camera and maybe some people can watch this later. We're doing a really low tech live for my first one. It's just me and a book and you guys, if there's anyone there. And I can see I've got 2 thumbs up. Does that mean someone's there? Come on if you are. Jeet, hello! Thank you for saying hi. So I think you can see there's a link in the description, and you can read that story with me. So we can go through, read it together, and hopefully you'll pick up some pronunciation. Oh, some people are joining. Okay, hello, people who've joined. My name's Pam. I'm an English teacher online. And today I thought it would be fun just if we read a story together. And maybe you know the story? Yeah? Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf. In your language, it might be different, but in English, that's it. This is not the original story, though. This is by a guy called Roald Dahl who made revolting rhymes. So all of these stories in this book are all revolting. They're all maybe a bit more with the blood and the disgusting things, but they're still for kids. But that's okay. You're adults, I'm an adult. We can still learn from it. It's still interesting. And the reason I chose this story is basically because it's a rhyme. And for people learning English as a second language, rhymes are really, really, really good for your spelling and for your pronunciation. Okay. English spelling, you guys know, is crazy, right? English spelling is not logical. You can try and learn spelling rules, but we break the rules so often that matching pronunciation to spelling is almost impossible if you try to learn with rules. So I recommend learn through rhymes. That's how children do it. And if you read enough things with rhymes, you'll start to see patterns, and it won't always match, but it will match often enough. And the rhyme tricks your brain into memorizing it. So that's why we're doing this. Okay, so we'll read this. I want to encourage you guys to read things that rhyme to help with your spelling and pronunciation. And as we read it, you might learn some vocabulary. It might be fun. Let's see. Anyway, for those of you who have joined, you can see in the description below, there is a link to this story. So I recommend that you maybe listen to me on one tab and read on another, or use your phone and a PC, whatever you can do. Okay. Anyway, let's go with our story. So the story is Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf. As soon as Wolf began to feel that he would like a decent meal, he went and knocked on Grandma's door. When Grandma opened it, she saw the sharp white teeth, the horrid grin, and Wolfie said, "May I come in?" Okay, let's stop there. All right, so one thing you guys can learn here is decent meal. That's what we call a collocation in English. Collocation is sets of words that go together. Yeah? And do you know decent meal? Decent meal is one way to say a meal that makes you feel full. So that's the natural way we would usually say that, not like I need a big meal or I need a heavy meal. I need a decent meal. Okay, so you can learn these kinds of things from it too. Okay, so what else was useful for you here too? The sharp white teeth, the horrid grin. Do you know grin? It's that kind of smile where you're showing all your teeth. It can be positive, but it's often kind of scary. And this one, horrid, horrid. Horrid means, similar to horror movie. So a horrid is a bad grin. Okay. All right. So where were we up to? The wolf has just knocked on the door and asked, may I come in? All right. Poor Grandmamma was terrified. He's going to eat me up, she cried. And she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite. Let's stop there again. Okay. Anything with any of the rhymes so far that you're noticing that's useful? One rhyme is that we had the words door and saw. I don't know if you noticed earlier on. You can see the rhymes door and saw. These two rhyme together in English, especially if you speak with a British accent or my kind of accent, an Australian accent, because we don't pronounce the R strongly. Americans might say door. I can't do it, but they'll say the R more strongly. But but again, noticing the pattern, yeah, even though SAW is spelt completely different to DOOR. So noticing those kinds of patterns is what you should be doing with rhymes. Another thing to point out, eat me up was some vocabulary there for you. Phrasal verbs, another thing you guys need to learn. So he's going to eat me up, she cried. Eat up means what? Everything. If you see up connected to a verb, that usually means everything, totally. So drink up means drink the whole drink. Eat up means eat everything on the plate. Or in this case, eat all of Grandmama. Okay, so we've got, all right, the wolf has just entered and seen Grandmama and she got scared. And she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite. But Grandmama was small and tough. And Wolfie wailed, "That's not enough. I haven't yet begun to feel that I have had a decent meal." He ran around the kitchen yelping, "I've got to have another helping." Okay, shall we stop there? Some vocabulary maybe. Wailed. Does anyone know wailed? Feel free to write in the chat if you want to guess some of these. Do you know what wailed means? Or yelping? Or another helping? If you know these, feel free to type in the chat box and I can check you. But basically, I'll tell you while we're waiting, wailed is crying loudly, okay? If you wail, you're crying in a very dramatic way. So Wolfie wailed, "Oh, that's not enough." And he ran around the kitchen yelping. Yelping is the noise someone might make if you stand on their foot. Oh. So you can imagine a dog might yelp if he gets hurt, that noise. So he ran around the kitchen making like a noise of pain, yelping. And he said, "I've got to have another helping." Helping meaning more food. Okay? Then added with a frightful leer, "I'm therefore going to wait right here till little Miss Red Riding Hood comes home from walking in the wood." Leer, do you know? Leer is a facial expression where you look like you either want to kill or hurt or do something bad to someone else. Okay? All right. So, what have we got? He quickly put on Grandma's clothes. Of course, he hadn't eaten those. Oh, that's a good one to point out with rhyme. Did you notice that clothes and those rhyme? I often find students get confused with that and they try to say closes or clothes. It's just the same pronunciation as close, as in open and close, in British or Australian pronunciation anyway. So close or those actually rhyme. Okay, let's keep going. He dressed himself in coat and hat. He put on shoes, and after that, he even brushed and curled his hair. Then sat himself in Grandma's chair. In came the little girl in red. She stopped, she stared, and then she said, "What great big ears you have, Grandma." "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied. What great big eyes you have, Grandma, said Little Red Riding Hood. All the better to see you with, the wolf replied. He sat there watching her and smiled. He thought, I'm going to eat this child. Compared with her old grandmama, she's going to taste like caviar. Then Little Red Riding Hood said, But Grandma, what a lovely great big furry coat you have on. Okay, let's stop for a minute. So I think there's not so much new vocabulary there for you. Again, oh, New Saint, hello. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions, type away. And if you want to read with me, there's a link in the description so you can read the story while I'm reading it to you. Okay, but where were we? We were just looking back here. Anytime you guys want me to explain some of the vocabulary, just write and I'll explain it. But this bit, not so much new vocabulary, but I do want to point out that any story, any fairy tale that is really famous, like this one, has some phrases that just everyone grows up knowing. So if you're learning it in English as a second language, if you didn't learn these phrases as a child, it's a good idea to read fairy tales as an adult because we'll use them in movies, in songs. People use them when they make jokes. So things like, what great big ears you have, to a native speaker, we'll hear that and understand, oh, right, that's a reference to Little Red Riding Hood. So that's another reason I recommend reading kids' stories even as an adult if you're learning a second language. Okay, so we've actually almost finished the story, guys. So we were up to, but Grandma, what a lovely great big furry coat you have on. So Red Riding Hood has met the wolf disguised as Grandma, and what's going to happen? "That's wrong," cried Wolf. "Have you forgot to tell me what big teeth I've got?" "Ah, well, no matter what you say, I'm going to eat you anyway." The small girl smiles. One eyelid flickers. She whips a pistol from her knickers. She aims it at the creature's head, and bang, 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 she shoots him dead. A few weeks later, in the wood, I came across Miss Riding Hood, but what a change! No cloak of red, no silly hood upon her head. She said, "Hello, and do please note my lovely furry wolfskin coat." The end. Okay, so let's just look back over that bit. Was there anything you guys need to know? Flickers? I can't do it, but if your eyelid goes like this, that's flickering, okay? Flickering is any sudden movement. So do you know knickers is British English for underpants? And probably nothing else there, I think. Probably all okay. So that's it, guys. That was short and sweet. And I think there are not so many people here. Jeet and New Saint, I'm not sure if you're still there even. If you are and you want to ask any questions or talk about anything, feel free. Otherwise, we might finish up now. It's just a short, sweet test of YouTube Live. It's not as interactive as Instagram Live, is it? I'm going live on Instagram tomorrow night too. So I hope to see you guys there. That one is always much more interactive and we can have more of a chat. But I'm glad I tried this. Might try it again some other time with a few more, you know, toys and things to make it exciting and interesting for you. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything in the chat box, so I am going to go. Have a great night, and I hope to see you at the Instagram Live tomorrow. Bye.